I'm really excited to be joined today by Dale Archdekin. For those who don't know Dale, he is very well known in the Follow Boss community as a expert in lead conversion. He has nearly 2 decades of experience as a real estate agent. He has built and grown 5 mega teams to be top producing teams, and he is the founder of Smart Sales Coaching. Dale, thanks so much for joining the call today.
Yeah, I'm super happy to be here today. I know that you want to, have your audience know about ISAs and get into it, and I just love talking about that stuff.
Yeah, so going back to the basics really quick, for those who don't know, what is an ISA?
It's an inside sales agent. And so, within a lot of other industries use that position where basically it's a dedicated salesperson who doesn't actually go out on appointments. Typically, they will work in the office, whether that's in-house or remote for the company. They will receive inbound leads or even do outbound lead generation to have contacts, communicate, conversations with people to set appointments, typically for an outside rep or for a consultation. And so I think maybe about 12 to 15 years ago, people in real estate looked at that position and started to use them within their teams and said, okay, our outside agents get really busy. They don't have the time to talk to leads and lead generate and follow up and nurture. And so what we'll do is we'll divide those jobs, and we'll have an outside agent who goes and opens the doors or goes and conducts the listing appointment. And then we'll have an inside salesperson who converts the lead, has conversations with them, works inside the CRM, creates, nurtures, follows up, and books the appointment for the outside agent.
Great. So you just touched on it a little bit, but do you have any suggested parameters for solo agents or teams to say, okay, we don't have an ISA now. When do I know I need one?
Yeah, best case or best practices are you need an ISA when you want more appointments, you're already busy, you have plenty of leads that need to be followed up with, and the only reason that the leads aren't being followed up with and more appointments aren't being set is because you're too busy out showing houses or cultivating, taking listings and managing them. In that case, when you say, hey, I don't have time to follow up with these leads or book more appointments for myself, but I want more appointments, then you can specialize into inside sales. And so what that looks like is typically if you're a solo agent, you have your lead generation down, whether that's sphere of influence and past client, or whether that's a strong, sphere of influence marketing sort of farming methodology that is working for you. Or if you're a team that is producing lots of leads and 80% or more of your agents are very busy out showing houses and taking listings, that's typically when you're ready for specialization into inside sales.
Okay. And to touch on that, on the team perspective, let's say a team leader says that their agents do have the time to make the calls, but they're spending their time doing other things. And so they think the solution is, well, maybe I'll just hire an ISA and they'll cover all of the problems we're having as a team.
Yeah, so I like to refer to that as having a baby to fix your marriage. It doesn't usually work. So the problem there is that your sales team is under-managed, under-trained, and not being held accountable to actually their sales and lead generation activities, which is crucial. So, the difficulty there is an ISA, specializing in an ISA is expensive because you have to pay for those salespeople, whereas you don't pay for an agent typically. And it requires even more management, oversight, structure, and accountability in order to make the inside sales position profitable. If you think you're going to solve a lack of sales activity from your agents by spending more money and needing to manage a specialized salesperson, you first need to fix your management, training, and accountability process for your outside agents to make them productive, because a productive ISA won't fix unproductive agents.
Mm-hmm. So what if someone's watching this and they say, well, I tried that and I get so much pushback saying, I only want to work with good leads. I don't want bad leads. I don't want to spend time calling. I don't like calling. What does a team lead do? Do they get rid of them and start over? Is there something that they can do to encourage agents to follow standard operating procedures?
Yeah, I don't typically plug us or my company, but we work with clients all the time that need to fix these things. And there's two answers to that question. One is you need to find agents or salespeople, you need to recruit them to your team that are going to do the type of work that you're providing them, which would be leads and prospecting and those types of things. And you need to make sure that the salespeople that you have on your team are either doing the type of lead generation and the type of business cultivation that works for them and that they're doing it. And if they aren't going to cultivate business according to the way you tell them to do it or the way that works best for them, they shouldn't be with your company. So you need to let them go. So it's really a staffing issue, and it's a training, management, and accountability issue. So there are, lots of agents, even people that I know well, who really excel at relational selling, sphere of influence, past client, face-to-face, and just hate and aren't any good at cultivating stranger business. Great. If that's you, then do what your strength is, but you still end up selling houses, right? You still end up doing business. If you have a team where they aren't doing what you tell them to do, or an agent on your team who isn't doing what you tell them to do, or they aren't also generating business in the way they want to generate business and way that works for them, they just shouldn't be there. And so that happens in a lot of cases. A lot of times when we take on teams and we do training for teams and we do consulting for their leaders, what we find is that usually they've got somewhere between 20 to 40% of their sales team either shouldn't be in sales, or they're trying to force them to do the wrong type of business that doesn't work for them.
Yeah, that's a really tough pill to swallow for some people. If they know their agents are really good relationally, but they're not following what expectations you put in place. So that can be a really tricky situation to navigate. So switching topics, there's $1 million question here of people asking, well, great, I think I do need an ISA. I do want to make the calls, I just don't have the time, or same with our agents. But what's wrong with just hiring a company to do it? They're more affordable per hour. They're just ready to go immediately. I don't have to train them. Why or why not should someone hire an ISA in-house versus outsourcing to another company?
Yeah, so I'll explain it this way. Specializing in inside sales for the real estate industry specifically is probably one of the hardest things to do. It costs a lot of money. There's very few people who can do that position really well and convert at a high level and make it profitable. So that is just a standard fact that everybody knows. So if you think about it, then, all right, if there's a third party company who says, hey, I'm going to make all of our profit on providing lots of high quality, high converting ISAs to real estate teams and brokerages across North America, that just doesn't make sense. They can't provide that many high quality, productive ISAs to that many companies because it's so hard to find them. And it's just antithetical to, what they have to do to make money versus what they're trying to provide, right? So what happens is typically somebody's going to say, hey, I'm a great ISA, or I've led ISAs and I can do this really well, and I'm going to scale it. The problem is that when they go from being that one-to-one or that small company that has a couple of good ISAs to trying to scale, they have to reduce their quality standards because they have to add more people and they have a lot of turnover. So usually what I find is as those done for you companies get bigger, the quality of the work and the productivity and the conversion go way down. So that's the issue with hiring a third party company to do the actual lead conversion for you, because it is the hardest and most important job to be done. And what happens is as those companies scale, they have less quality people doing them. And so, you can get half-assed results yourself without paying somebody else, frankly, right? But by, on the flip side of that, the best way to do it, the most productive way, is to learn how to hire and screen and manage and hold accountable your own in-house ISA domestically. When I say domestically, I mean in your market. If you want somebody to take a prospect, get into a conversation, build rapport, do discovery, and set a quality appointment with them verbally, usually to get all the way through that process, you need a skilled salesperson in your local market. And that you really need to hire in-house. And whether they work in your office or not, or they work virtually, doesn't really matter. There is a place I've seen successfully where you can use offshore sourcing. Typically, usually, if you aren't tasking that offshore person with taking the sale all the way through, or the lead all the way through to a qualified appointment, usually that's better, right? If they're managing your database, if they're executing texting, email campaigns, if they're supporting the sales department, that's usually the most productive way to utilize an offshore person. But otherwise, when we work with clients, we've seen over and over again, the most productive, the best way to do it is, if you want a dedicated full-on salesperson teeing up highly qualified appointments, they need to be in your local market and managed and run by you.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, two things I want to point out what you just said is that illustration of the scalability you just made. That's across any industry you see, where maybe there's a small startup tech company, a small local store, and then they decide to franchise it. There's one in my area that decided to franchise a little pizza shop, and it just went totally wrong. They scaled, they opened up like 6 locations in once, and the quality of the food decreased. It was just a nightmare for them, and unfortunately hasn't been good for them. But the second thing I wanted to point out, I forgot. I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. What was the last statement you were saying? It was,
I
oh,
said
okay.
utilizing offshore.
Yeah,
And
yeah. On the offshore is exactly right, with having them be more of a database manager role instead of ISA, even if they work day in and day out of mastering their accent and communicating with people, there's still a cultural difference. There's differences in grammar and communication styles that can be sort of a roadblock with clients that I've seen as well.
it's
So,
funny.
oh,
Anytime I say that, it always offends somebody. Somebody always gets upset and says, well, I'm running offshore and they're amazing and they do a fantastic job for me. Great. That's awesome. But guess what? For every one of those stories, I can point to 20 of them where it doesn't work out. And so the reason I'm animated about that is because, yeah, listen, somebody wins the lotto all the time, right? There are lottery winners out of how many people that bought tickets. So when we're giving this kind of advice, I'm giving that advice from a more general aspect, which says that, hey, you could potentially do it in a different way and be successful at it. It's just that there's so many people for whom it doesn't work. And generally speaking, if in your local market, domestic people, they can take a full-on sales process much easier than trying to outsource it to another country and still have them do that full-on sales process. In our industry, it's just very difficult to make that work and make it profitable.
yeah. And although it might be cheaper in the beginning, whenever you're outsourcing, it's really risky. And then because of the lotto illustration you made, it's most likely going to cost you more in the long run. It'll cost you business, loss of business, and the cost of having to find someone else and train them up again and spend a lot of hours training them. So yeah, I definitely see that point of view.
Yeah.
So last question for you is, an agent says, okay, I'm sold. I think I do need to do in-house. I'm not going to do outsource. I do need an ISA, but I'm doing so many things already. I'm showing homes, I'm doing listing appointments, I'm working with clients, negotiating deals, inspections, going to closings. I don't have the time to recruit. I don't have the train. What do I do? I'm stuck.
So I would say that you don't take on that endeavor. Don't take on the endeavor of hiring and training and managing an ISA, even if you pay a third. So we do ISA training. We teach people we teach them a really great recruiting and screening process. However, if somebody came to my company and said, oh my God, I'm running around with my hair on fire. There's no way I could carve out 2 hours a week to focus on this. I would say you're not ready to do this then. You need to figure out how to manage your business and at least clear your schedule to the point that you have somewhere between 2 to 3 hours per week that you could dedicate to this ISA. Even if you pay a third-party company like mine to help you with it, you still have to invest that time in order to be successful. So I would turn them around and I'd say, go focus on getting your business organized to the point that you can invest that time. Because even if I help you, you're going to have it.
So even if someone hires Smart Sales Coaching, what sort of tasks would they need to have the time to dedicate for their ISA? What would that role look like for them?
So initially we would help them get their process set up. We would teach them a recruiting and screening process to where they would be receiving applicants. They would be screening those applicants and putting them through a series of skills-based assessments that we teach them to do. And then they're going to be doing that once they've identified someone that they believe is a good fit that they want to make a hire with. Then they can leverage us for some of the training. But internally, you're going to have to teach them your system. Even if you're with Follow Up Boss, and even if you've used Elena to set it up, you have a specific way that you want to work in there. You have a specific tags and processes that you want to follow, or maybe you don't even have one and you have to develop one, but you have to teach them that because that's unique across companies.
Mm-hmm.
You would need to teach them about your unique market, your neighborhoods, your zip codes, your communities. Those are things that we can't teach them. And then we can teach them the lead conversion part, the scripting and dialogue part, the how to overcome objections and book good appointments. But there's a lot of internal stuff that client's going to have to teach them in order to make them successful. And then there's the management part, right? So we can teach you how to hold your ISA accountable and what they should be doing and how you'll know if they're doing a good job or not. But you have to actually go into the system and see if they're doing it. And then you have to have the, either great conversation that they are doing it or the unfortunate conversation that they aren't doing it, right? It's sales management. So you can't outsource everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I know you don't like to plug a lot of businesses, but I see the logos on the right side next to your face. I'm curious, can you explain what Conversion University is to people really quick?
Sure. Yeah, Conversion University is it's a course that you put new agents or new ISAs through, or even ISAs or agents that have been operating but haven't learned our specific scripting and dialogue strategies. So Conversion U is a combination of a 9-module video training course combined with live training. We have 8 trainers that work for my company, and we provide live interactive training daily, every week. So that's what Conversion University is, and it really kind of underpins most of the things that we do when teaching agents or ISAs how to convert and improve their conversion.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this call. If anyone wants to reach out to you or your team to either ask you more questions or learn more about what you offer, how can they reach you?
Yeah, one, you can go to our website, smartsalescoaching.com, and I'm Dale at Smart Sales Coaching, and somebody's always looking at my inbox. So you can just hit me up there. Yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with us.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dale.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.